and what went really bad was we had a media organization that ran a story without any information saying you have to wear a mask or you're going to be kicked out or we're going to get you arrested. That's what they were saying. You're going to get arrested and they're going to do all this kind of stuff. So once we said, look, it's 2 cameras. It's just a test to see if the software and the cameras can recognize. It was fine. Right. So what could have turned into this national bad story about us doing things with facial and camera recognition, because we do have an open conversation and open, lines of communication with our residents. When we told them what was happening, they knew that's what was happening. When you're up front, you're honest, you're open as a government, as a person, as a whatever, that openness, you get that trust. We want people to come and use this. We're not here to make money. We're here to help progress. And it's a public playground, if you will. We're not going to charge, like Disney World or something like that.
Welcome to On Point with Ron Gailey, where we meet with city leaders to discuss pressing issues, best practices, and ways that citizens and leaders come together to build their communities. City and municipal leaders have some of the toughest jobs in America. They are bombarded by expectations and conflicting demands. This podcast explores how successful leaders navigate that complexity. And now, your host, CEO and founder of On Point Insights, Ron Gailey.
Ryan, nice to see you this morning.
Yeah, good to see you too, Ron.
Yeah. How was your day?
I'm going good. I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Yeah. How was Thanksgiving, by the way?
Thanksgiving was great. We just had something small with my family, just my parents and their grandkids, my kids. It was good. How about you?
Good. We were in Atlanta visiting my daughter there. Yeah. And then I dropped in and visited with Louis. Svehla. Oh, yep. Man.
You put a V next to any other letter, and sometimes it gets hard. So,
but anyway, we visited, and I visited Peachtree Corners. What a delight it was, and so I'm happy to have him joining us today for our podcast.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be on. I look forward to speaking with you guys. It's nice to see both of you. It's nice to see Ryan again, and I think it's going to be a fun conversation. So I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Yeah. Peachtree Corners is rather unique because sometime in the past, going back several years, they had a visionary leader who tried to turn Peachtree Corners into a technology hub and largely succeeded. And then roughly 12 years ago, the city incorporated, became their own city, and the city leaders wanted to push that visionary leadership to a whole new level. And Peachtree Corners has become a rare city among cities in the United States for its focus on technology. And when I was in town and Louis showed me around, I was pretty impressed. Like it's a great story they have to tell. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everybody here. I think our audience will love it.
Good. Very good.
Louis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am a military brat. So I grew up in Europe, kind of traveled around as I was a kid. I did my high school in Augusta, Georgia, and my college in Milledgeville, Georgia. I traveled a lot of years all around the country doing different jobs in both the public and private sector. I have been in public information my entire career. I'm a trained journalist, so this was a natural fit for me. I much prefer the public sector over the private sector. So I was in Florida for about 10 years prior to taking this job. I took this job a little bit over 2 years ago. I wanted to get back closer to what I consider home. And I am extremely lucky to be the communications director for the city of Peachtree Corners, as well as the chief communications officer for the Curiosity Lab.
He mentioned the Curiosity Lab. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show a quick picture here while we're talking.
And, let's do it.
Let's see. Let me share my screen here. Share screen. Here we go. Entire screen. I'm going to just share that window. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share this window. Can you see this?
I can.
Are you able to see it? If I
Yeah,
zoom in on this, can you
That's
still see
great.
it?
it's much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so this is the Curiosity Lab. Tell us a little bit about this Curiosity Lab.
Yeah, so this is the Innovation Center of Curiosity Lab. Curiosity Lab is actually bigger than just this building. It encompasses, about 45 to 60 acres, depending on who you ask. And it is a test center, a building, as well as a startup incubator. So it has a few different things. There's a test track out here, which is kind of one of the main features for autonomous vehicles or any kind of teleoperated vehicles or electric vehicles that are testing. We have our innovation center, which brings in both established companies and startups who are either testing new products or developing new technologies. And then we have an incubator that is located within the innovation center building that helps our startups progress and hopefully move to a newer business, opening a full business, and hopefully locating those businesses here in Peachtree Corners or our surrounding areas here in Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, this is a picture of the technology parkway that he described for autonomous vehicles, right?
Yeah, so this is the intersection, one of the main intersections. This intersection is actually the smartest intersection in North America and the second smartest intersection in the world. It allows every single thing you can think of to talk to every other thing. As long as those other items can hear what is being said from the first one, they can communicate in real time. So that's everything from vehicles to pedestrians to streetlights, to the electrical boxes, to the cameras, you name it, it is all wired to be a completely smart city. And it is a fantastic testing facility for anything smart city.
I drove on that road and it was, it didn't seem like anything really. I mean, they called it Technology Parkway, and I got on the road and I drove up it. There were a little higher than normal speed bumps just to keep people from going off onto a side where they don't want people to go. But it was just a road. But on the other hand, had I realized that I was being, the cameras were, watching me every step of the way, and they knew the size of the vehicle that I was in. They knew what I was driving. They could track me all the way through. And if I got into an accident, a future technology would probably even let people know that it happened, where it happened, and call for help. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really all about making cities smarter, right? So how do we fix certain things like traffic? How do we fix the ability for people to know what's around them and their surroundings for safer driving? How do we dispatch first responders in the event that something happens on a roadway or in an area? So that's really a lot of what's being done here with a bunch of different technologies. So it's really about making a smart city. So the cameras are certainly here. They do a lot. Most of it is all in the background. And one thing that we're very conscious of is privacy. So we're not doing facial recognition and things like that, but we are doing a lot of object recognition to be able to have computers and advanced AI as we continue to go forward to really assist cities with planning and traffic and safety and health and pretty much everything you can think of for the future.
The interesting thing I saw when I was there was it's not like Peachtree Corners is developing any of this. It's not like Peachtree Corners is pushing these new technologies. You have merely made a playground for any interested business to come and work there and design what they think would be good for the future, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So our background is in technology. So back in the late 70s, Paul Duke, who was a graduate of Georgia Tech, was tired of seeing the brain drain leave Georgia and leave the Atlanta area and move out to areas on the coasts. So he came out to this area, which at the time was about 20 miles outside of downtown Atlanta, and he created Atlanta's first technology park. He constructed Class A office buildings with the pure intention of just filling them with tech companies. That was extremely successful. There were a lot of firsts that were here. The modem was invented here. The color printer was invented here. Atlanta Scientific, which we now know as Cisco Systems, got its start here. So when the city started, they had to work to say what made us different. And what made us different was our history and technology. So they hired a lot of really smart people, a lot of consultants, did a lot of testing, look at what was going on in the world, and said, you know what, our history is technology, so let's focus on that. That developed into autonomous vehicles, which at the time was a very big topic. It's still a very big topic now. And the first kind of iteration was the development of this autonomous test track. What's interesting is we could do that because as a city, we own the roads. So we were able to construct that. That was one of the things that we did do as a city was build this test track. And then we had a building that was our old city hall that we said we need to turn this into something. So we turned it into the Innovation Center. And basically the plan was to have companies come in, whether they're startups or established companies. We gave them an environment in which they could test, they could develop, they could design, whether it's hardware, software, whatever it need be. And we would just step back and say, come in and do what you need to do. Like you said, a playground, we consider it the sandbox, right? So we created this box, we filled it full of sand, and we told them, bring all your toys and play. And that's kind of where it started. And it just continues to absolutely grow. And it's really through the roof to the point where we're having to expand because it's been so successful.
To me, it's a testimony
Awesome.
for cities making their cities friendly to things that have a good long-term potential, right? It's sort of like you're not waiting for things to happen either in your city at all. One of the terms you used when I was visiting with you is that you're a progressive city. And I said, progressive city, that has political connotations. And you're saying, no, that's not what we're thinking about. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we're progressive in the fact that we want to lead progress. We want to push progress. So what we're trying to do is, there was a plan put in place years ago for this lab, for this development, for Curiosity Lab. And a lot of what we do, we make sure that we're considering that with every decision we make and pushing that forward. So the beauty is that we use Curiosity Lab as our economic development arm, if you will, as a way to grow the city, whether it's through technology, whether it's bringing companies here to do testing, or getting startups here to develop new products that hopefully graduate from the lab and open new businesses, which brings jobs and helps, Peachtree Corners flourish. The other thing that's interesting about our city is we do it all with no millage rate. So we do not tax our citizens to live within the city. So we have, a lot of support from the city. Everything that they see, whether it's recreation or new development or new stores coming in or all the things that you need to raise quality of life, they get all of it without having to worry about how much of their tax dollars is going to it. Because aside from what we may get from some sales tax, from our sales tax splosh that we have here in this area, the rest of it is paid for by businesses and by travelers and by those who stay in hotels and eat our meals and those kind of things. So it's definitely different than a normal city. We look for a reason, or we never look for a reason to say yes, right? If it meets the plan and it meets the mission, yes is the default issue until we have a reason to say no. So the key is progressing and staying and knowing what that mission is. And taking advantage of every opportunity that we have to continue to expand that mission.
When I was there, he was showing me very briefly a technology that somebody's working on where, they have like large tubes or whatever, and a package could be delivered and then just shuttled to different rooms or different places or different businesses, all by going on a conveyor belt of sorts within these tubes. And will it succeed? Who knows? Like, will it be a great idea? Well, they're trying to figure out if they can while they're playing in the sandbox, and each company that comes in finds out all kinds of issues, problems with a great idea, the things that would undercut its success, but they find it out in an environment that really replicates real life. Is the beauty. And then you said you're willing to tear up roads or change things, and indeed you are. Like, you're willing to work with them to develop systems, that not mimic real life, like it's part of real life, and they have to make it succeed, with hills and
Yeah,
valleys
it's
and weather and
yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting here because we are what we consider a living laboratory. We are a real world environment. So the area that Curiosity Lab proper, if you will, falls, is home to businesses. It's home to housing. It goes right in front of City Hall, and across from City Hall, we have a very large townhome community. We have apartments that are on this road. We have people that walk, that jog, that bike, that pretty much do everything. So it's literally a living lab. We have a very mature tree canopy. We have grades and turns in the road, so it's not just a flat test area like you would get for some vehicles, as we talk out in like some salt flats or desert areas where they sometimes test these things. So we have all this technology every single day interacting with human population, business, human-driven vehicles. So it's as real world as it can get. Even to the point that, our housing that's here, there are times where we have companies here that are testing that go over to the residents that are here and say, hey, we need you to be part of this testing. What do you think? And they say, yeah, great. We'd love to do it. So, whether it's a company that's coming in like we have right now, that said, we need to put some pipes in the ground. Can we do that? And we said, sure. And they used our right of way and installed pipes in our ground to be able to test underground robot package and food delivery. To T-Mobile, who is here, which is probably our largest partner. We are one of their 4 U.S. executive briefing centers. They are located inside and embedded within the actual building. And what's cool is they're testing everything T-Mobile. So everything you can think of wireless, every bit of 5G, as high as it can go, as wide as it can go. Everything we do here is 5G wireless, because wireless is going to be the answer in the future. As a city, we know that we can't continue to dig up roads. We can't continue to build infrastructure. It's a whole lot easier to put things on poles and move them around than it is to put things in the ground. So from a national and world standpoint, really, that's where it's going to go to. So to have a partner like T-Mobile here doing all of this and bringing companies from around the world to see what they're doing, it's pretty amazing, some of the things that go on inside that building and inside this environment.
Louis, what would you say? Okay, so there's not going to be a city manager or city leader who listens to this who says, well, we're a technology hub. Like, they're going to be their own thing, right? Like, they're going to be whatever they are. And what do you think, having you've been in various places, cities and businesses, what do you think applies to others as they think about, like, this is a great story, but as they also think, like, okay, so what do we do? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, I've been in both public and private sector, and I've worked for county governments and school systems and cities and private companies, and everybody has something that they're good at. They have something that they're known for. We are extremely lucky here that we have fantastic leadership. First off, our city council is absolutely amazing. Our mayor is fantastic. They have been not only supportive of this, but catalysts to allow it to continue to happen and to happen to begin with. So, I would say from a public standpoint, strong leadership is very important, and the ability for those leaders to get along, regardless of what one thinks or the other one thinks, or if they do or don't disagree. In the end, we do a very good job. They do a great job of getting on board together and saying, as a board, this is what we have decided as a city council, and we're all going to support it. So you
know
don't
what?
have that
Let me add to
infighting.
this. Let me add to this, because I totally agree with you. And 12 years ago, when you embarked on this journey,
Yeah.
they could have said technology was our legacy, but it's getting old, and it's kind of becoming, the way it was, and we need a new vision. We want to become, and they could have picked something. They could have picked something, and they could have destroyed really the heart of what you guys were as they chased after some other dream. And I just think it's so impressive that not only did they take a an aging foundation, they elevated it in a big way.
Yeah, what I will say, just to continue to give them kudos, is this group is so good that we have not had a city council person lose their seat in an election via someone running against them. We have had some that have retired in new spaces. Our mayor that was elected is the first city mayor, is still the mayor. So that's one way to know that they're doing a very good job of what they've done. But yeah, it was a lot of coming together. The truth is, I don't know if it would have. I think having technology was certainly a great opportunity, but really that group probably could have come together and said, we're going to do something, and they probably would have been successful anyway. We have, from leadership here, we have an extremely dynamic city manager. We have two fantastic assistant city managers. And we keep everybody on the same page. And having that background, having that history, being able to use that and find how it relates to today was really the difference. Like I said, everybody has something they're good at. The thing is, you have to make it relative. You have to make it mean something to those that are here today. And they have done a fantastic job and continue to do it. We have a couple other little things. We only have 30 employees that work for the city. The rest of our services are provided by contractors. So to an extent, we can be lean and mean. We can make decisions very quickly. We have, I say the city has done very good at hiring. That's another important piece. I call it putting your aces in places, getting good people that know what they're doing and allowing them to do their jobs, and supporting. We know that we're not going to get everything right. And another thing here is it's okay to fail. Let's fail at a small thing before it gets too big. So we work hard from the very beginning, and we know when we need to keep going, or we know if we need to stop. So having leadership, strong leadership, whether it's elected leadership or hired leadership, is absolutely crucial. And keeping everybody on the same page. I would say the quality of life within a city or even a private organization is just as important as that quality of life that those employees or people have within their homes. It's never going to be a home. We oftentimes refer to each other as our work families and stuff like that. But the fact is, we pride ourselves on supporting each other, respecting everyone. And that goes from the top to the bottom, and it goes to our residents. We respect every single resident, and our jobs are to give opportunity for everybody and help them have the best lives they can have.
And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you if you do a lot of citizen surveys and get a lot of feedback.
We've done a couple. We did actually this year. We did our first full community survey to kind of judge the feelings generally of the city. What are your feelings about the city? What do you think of our parks, our recreation? The regular kind of high level baseline information that you want. And that was very successful. It was needed. We will continue to do a survey every couple of years to look at those numbers again. We're very happy with those numbers. It supports that we continue to be on the right track. And then we do some smaller surveys here and there, depending on what we need. I did a communication survey when I first got here. It was important to me when I started in a new position where I didn't know, the residents. I didn't know the area as well because I didn't live here and I wasn't from this area. Everybody likes to get their information different. So I used the survey to find out what people are using. How are you getting information? How do you want to get your information? And then, I use those results, and the city does a great job at using results to lead into, future, to say, hey, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to stop doing and wasting time on because people either aren't using it or aren't reading it or aren't finding it. So no, surveys are huge. When done correctly, and done with an organization that uses strong strong background on how they conduct so that the data is fair and honest, that is really what matters. Obviously, doing a big full-blown survey is different with a company or a group that knows what they're doing than like throwing out a survey monkey, so surveys are only as important as the data that comes in that you can trust.
Very good. Just another question for you. We did talk about becoming a progressive city.
Yeah.
What else would you tell a city that said, hey, I think we want to become a progressive city and do the right things for our people here? Any other thoughts you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, surveys are a good part of that. We were a little different. We had the ability as a new city to kind of start from scratch. I mean, obviously, if you're established and you've been somewhere, it's a little harder. Finding out what your residents want, what they're interested in, what they don't want, it is definitely a big part of it, because you're not going to be able to be progressive without the support of your residents and your citizens. And your businesses, for that matter. Your businesses need to support what you're doing as well, because they know that that's how they're going to make their livings within your limit, whatever it happens to be, a city or a county. And then after you find out what that is, you need to do the research. You need to find out how that's relevant to today. So how is what what the citizens want, how can you do that to make it relevant to them? And a lot of times getting people that know those industries. Like I said, when they started, they hired specialists that came in that did studies on how do you do this. So we're a good example. Technology is what we want to do. Our public knows it. They support it. That was their background. They're invested in it. So then it was like, okay, well, what part of technology? Well,
Right.
we had to find the specialist. You can't throw it at a dartboard and hope you're successful. You had to find out what was trending, what was needed, what would be supported. That was done over a number of years. And then once the plan is put in place, you need to follow the plan. Obviously, you update the plan and you don't do every piece of it. You keep the public aware of where you are in that plan and how it's going and how it affects them. So it's really that communication of what you're doing. And like I said, probably the most important thing is that you can't be afraid to say yes. You have to be willing to say yes and try some different things, because that's what keeps you going.
We work with other cities who are doing the very thing you're talking about, where they first do a general citizen survey and they find out priorities. Because one of the things we do well is we help give the real clear priorities of where citizens feel the city ought to go. And usually that's after we describe really well what the city leaders envision. You know what I mean? But they find out the priorities, and then they'll follow it up with another survey, because you get the priorities, but you can do it all wrong within a priority or within an idea. Like there are a lot of ways to do things, and sometimes it's not so smart. And so they'll follow up with another one, and then another one, and then another one, until it's almost like the sandbox test environment approach, right? Yeah. It's sort of like where you go, we have this vision, but how do we get there, and what are the pitfalls, and how do we do it wisely? Yeah. And I just see some of these cities also being progressive like you in very different ways, in impressive ways, and taking a city that was good and really getting the citizens to say, I love the direction we're going. Like, this is a great city and a great direction, and yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was visiting with the city council just the other day, it was Tuesday night. A great city. Their current rating is not so good from citizens, but we're going the right direction is off the charts high. And so it's sort of like, leaders who have figured out where they're going. Maybe things are far from ideal where they're at, but you keep this going for 10, 12 years, it'll be amazing what you can accomplish,
Yeah. Yeah, it's as you can tell by my background, I'm somewhat of a sports fan. So, I always harken back, and it's probably one of the best phrases, and it really comes from sports for anybody who pays attention over the past few years. But it's trust the process. Nothing. You plant a tree, it's not going to grow overnight. I mean, there's a process. You have to water it. You have to make sure it has sun. You have to protect it from bugs. You have to do things. So if that plan's in place, you do what's necessary, and you trust the process. It takes time to be successful. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think we see that here. I mean, our rates within our surveys that we've done show that they support what we're doing. When we have, I guess the just basic question is, on your scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you living, or do you love, I mean, basically, are we equated to what was an 86% approval rating, which is absolutely amazing for anything. 86% of the people that I've met probably don't even like me. So the fact that the city is able to do that, is
And it's
great.
hard, double hard for a city. Like it's just not really easy to do that in a
Yeah,
city.
it's not.
No, we did
You know,
one. We got an
you're
80.
always
86 is spectacular because the highest I've seen is an 80.
you're always going to have bumps in the road, but the thing is, when you have everybody in mind, when you're doing things, and this city does a good job of it, we see the benefit, and we show the benefits. That's another piece. We're not afraid to cheer for our wins, right? You have to be somewhat open to, shaking your own pom poms, So when we have things that go well, we let our public know. This is a success. We're doing this, and then this is how you're going to benefit. Whether it's new companies opening up, whether it's more jobs, whether it's, partnerships between private companies and our local school system to be able to help education. Every time we do something that's positive, we push it out, and that outward communication, as well as having our doors open for our public to give us feedback or contact us, is huge.
Yeah, Louis, that actually brings up a question that I've had is with all these experiments and uh, the living laboratory that you talk about going on, and your residents participating often with these companies. Has anything gone maybe quite wrong, or an experiment that failed spectacularly? And it was that honest and open communication that sort of kept the trust going to say, hey, let's keep doing this. We know it's not going to go right every time. Have you had an
Yeah,
experience like that?
I actually have a very good experience. It's a very interesting experience. Luckily, it wasn't anything that, is like in a lab where you mix those two chemicals and get the smoke or anything. But it really happened during COVID. So obviously, like I said, object recognition is something that we work a lot with here, to be able to have cameras know what's happening in an area without human eyes being on it. Then it can send alerts. Like Ron said earlier, if there's an accident, a camera can see it, send an alert to police or fire or whoever immediately. Then they can log in, see that camera, see on the scene. You can provide a lot of life saving, a lot of different things. So there's a lot of benefits to AI, if you will, or object recognition being able to help. Early on in the pandemic, we had a company that wanted to test a recognition software. And the best way to be able to test this was we put some cameras here in City Hall. Actually, it was two cameras just in the main lobby. And what the object recognition was doing was not facial recognition, but it was recognizing, and it could tell whether or not you did or did not have a mask on, right? So if you were wearing a mask, it could say, I cannot see the facial features, right? If you weren't wearing a mask, it knew because you were not, it could see the nose and the mouth and know that there was no mask on. The other thing it did was it was able to determine by distance how far people were standing apart, whether it was 5 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, So during the pandemic, you have to wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart, all of this kind of stuff. And what went really bad was we had a media organization that ran a story without any information saying that we were monitoring all of our people. And if they weren't wearing masks or weren't doing this, that we were telling them they had to leave and all this negative stuff. And that the city was doing this to residents and visitors. And it could have gone very bad. Luckily, we have a very open council, a very open employee base here, a very good city manager, and they immediately corrected. It was not something that was happening through the city. The public was not even, we weren't saying you have to wear a mask or you're going to be kicked out or we're going to get you arrested. That's what they were saying. You're going to get arrested and they're going to do all this kind of stuff. So once we said, look, it's 2 cameras, it's just a test to see if the software and the cameras can recognize, it was fine. Right. So what could have turned into this national bad story about us doing things with facial and camera recognition, because we do have an open conversation and open, lines of communication with our residents. When we told them what was happening, they knew that's what was happening. When you're up front, you're honest, you're open as a government, as a person, as a whatever, that openness, you get that trust. But that could have certainly exploded into something that would not have been good for certainly us, but any city that would have been in that position.
Yeah, and
You
if
know, I
that
love
trust hadn't been built up over time, that situation, that one time of telling them, oh, it's just a test, is that trust built up over years that allowed you to navigate that so well. That's
Absolutely. And
great.
letting them know what we're doing it when we're doing it.
Yeah.
If they see something or we have that, we do a lot with social media. We do a lot with, we still do digital e-newsletters. So that open communication, people can call in. My direct number, is on the website. It's not, you have to call in and, get through to an operator. We believe in being open to our residents, being open to our businesses. And if there are questions, we believe in answering them honestly.
Well, this has been just a treat. Um, Louis, anything more you think you'd love to share with our audience before we wrap it up?
Look, I would just, invite anybody to come take a look at what we're doing here. We do a lot of tours of the lab.
I'm a witness.
Even if governments, they don't have to go the route that we're going, but we have a lot of governments that come down here, be they cities, counties. We've had different state leaders come from other states. Internationally, we have consul generals and ambassadors and all that, because there's a lot you can learn from seeing what's being done here. Whether it's a technology standpoint or just an idea to hear how we did it, and hear from our city manager and our leadership about what we've done as a city. We invite people to come see here. We want success for everyone. We tell people a lot here. We've kind of earned the name. It's pretty interesting. Someone, actually an analyst, said it several years ago, and it kind of stuck. That we are, everybody knows about the Silicon Orchard, out in California, or Silicon Valley. We become the Silicon Orchard. Someone used that and it's kind of stuck. And what we do is we want to be, the Silicon Orchard is not Peachtree Corners. The Silicon Orchard is this entire side of Metro Atlanta. We, obviously want to be the center of it, but what we're doing here is, with this lab, obviously provides for the city and it helps from an economic development standpoint. But what could potentially be developed from this lab is something that is going to have potential worldwide implications. And we want that. We want the success. We want things to be tested here that are successful, that are implemented all over the world, that help city governments and county governments and state governments, and that help residents with safety and health. So, we invite people to come to Peachtree Corners, whether it's to see the city, whether it's to see the Curiosity Lab, whether it's, hey, we need to test something and our city won't let us. We've had that a bunch of times where they've said, well, we wanted to, the company that had to, put the tubes in the ground. They're not a local company. They were working with their local government, and their local government said, no, you're not going to tear up our right away,
Right?
even though you're paying for it to test this. So they came to us. We said, absolutely. If you're paying for it, come in and use it. We're a testing environment. So, they're from a completely different state and they're coming here to do their testing because that sandbox is there. So like I said, it's the ability to say yes, and the ability to find what works, what's going to benefit your city, your residents, your businesses, And for us, it just happens to be technology. But all of this can be recreated with anything that leads to good education, good jobs, good quality of life. It's a matter of finding what works for your residents, what works for your citizens, getting smart people, whether it's to do surveys or consultants to come in and help you find out what that is. And it's possible. I think that's one of the good things is to show that, you have places where governments and residents can work together and create something wonderful.
I love it. And you know what? I mean, just if anyone wonders what's inside a curiosity lab, what's inside a space? Like you have made space available to them. And of course you do have fiber optic, coming in, and you have but any city could have that, right? So what you have in your curiosity lab is just space and then a community that welcomes people to come in and go ahead and use it, right? It's not like you haven't really designed. I will take this back. You do have your road, your autonomous vehicle road, but that is only a fraction of what's being tested.
Oh,
right?
It's probably 5% at this point. It's really the infrastructure on the road that's really being tested. It's everything else that could possibly be connected over 5G. We have the other thing I didn't mention, Ron and Ryan, you'll probably like this, is we don't charge people to come test at our lab. So, if there's a startup or there's an established company and they want to come test here, we don't charge them. It's free to come test. If they say we want to hang something on a pole and get some data from it, come hang something from a pole and get some data from it, right? We're not going to charge you. The only time we charge is if someone wants to physically be embedded in the innovation center and rent space. So you can rent everything from a chair at a desk and use all the Wi-Fi and all the amenities and everything in there, up to a portion of the building or an office. But if you're just coming to test, you can stay in hotels. You can be here for a week, a month, whatever. Come use the environment. Come test. You can submit. It's a one-page beginning application on the Curiosity Lab PTC.com website. And it comes to us, and there are two people that look at it. And if they say yes, you come and you get to test.
That's so cool.
So we want people to come and use this. We're not here to make money. We're here to help progress. And it's a public playground, if you will. We're not going to charge, like Disney World or something like that.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. Ryan, any more questions for you?
No, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Lewis.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And Ryan, we're going to get you out here at some point.
Yeah, I'm not that far away. I'm up in Ohio, so I'd love to sometime.
Yep.
Two little kids are keeping me busy at the moment.
Be there.
It's an hour road trip. I've done longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Not with both kids, though, right?
Not with both kids.
Yeah, that's a little long with two kids.
Well, Lewis, thank you. And we'll call this a podcast, and we'll distribute this out, and we'll share a little something with you as we wrap this up. But thanks a million. This has been a true gift.
Thanks for listening. If you found this discussion valuable, please consider subscribing and sharing with others. If you have a topic or question you'd like to hear us discuss in our next episode, leave a comment or send us an email. It's podcast@onpoint-insights.com. See you next time.